But Saturday was a crazy day in the Premier League.
It was. It really was. And, just when you think everything's making sense, all of a sudden there's so many twists in it, especially from a Man City perspective. Would you like to get into that, Jules?
Yeah, of course, because that Premier League title race, really, where when you think that, okay, maybe now it's a bit more set and it's a bit more this, and yet there's another twist, as you mentioned. So we will start with City because Arsenal was an incredible game too, and they win. But I guess before you would expect them to win at Villa and City to win at Forest. City didn't, and they missed a lot of chances. I think the XG is around 3. Scored just 1. There's the Laporte miss. There's the Haaland misses. What was your assessment of that game?
Do you know, I've got to say though, I think more people would have expected City to win at Forest than Arsenal to win at Villa. Because there were a few doubts being raised about Arsenal, rightly or wrongly. So that was always going to be a big game for them. And I think the way that they finished it to win and to win by 2 goals, that's like a statement. You celebrate that. It's massive. Late win. So City then approached their game against Nottingham Forest, knowing again that it's a must-win because you had the disappointment of seeing Arsenal gain the 3 points because that was a game that was televised. And then City, overall, they very much controlled the game. They very much created all the chances. But as I was watching the game, I thought they need to score a goal. That's what I thought first half. Then they got one. Okay, that's a good spot. Second half, it just felt like they needed to score another. And the chances they were missing, they weren't like shots from 20 yards out hitting the crossbar. Haaland had two big chances. Laporte had a header from 5 yards out. There was even the one where Phil Foden was running through and tried to set it to Haaland and he fell over basically. These are huge opportunities. But then one thing I think which people need to take into account is playing away from home in the Premier League is always going to be tough. Because for Forest, as much as they felt very negative overall throughout the game, they still had to give their fans some reason to stay in the stadium and they were going to go for it more. And I think as the time progressed, you could sense they put on Chris Wood. They wanted to be a bit more progressive. And then they got the goal, and now they've got time in their favour because that was in the 83rd minute for City. Can you create any more big chances like that in the last 10 minutes? The answer is no. And before you know it, there's a 1-1 away from home and 2 points dropped.
I guess as long as you're just 1-0 down, at some point you're going to say, you know what, for 20 minutes, may as well go for it. If we lose 2 or 3-0, it's okay. We were still losing 1.
Exactly.
So 2 questions I've got for you. One, did you always know when you were playing, if you were in a title race like this and the other team was playing before, were you always aware of that result?
Always aware.
Okay, so they would tell you, or someone would tell you?
I think because of the nature of it, like, to put it into perspective, most stadiums that I went to, maybe it's different club to club, but most stadiums that I went to, there'd be a TV in there. And or say when you're on the bus on the way to the stadium, there's a TV on the bus. Well, you're not going to be watching the news. The likelihood is you're watching the football. Whatever game that is, whether it's Arsenal, whether it's Bournemouth, makes no difference. You watch that game. So all of a sudden you have that sort of instinct about watching what's happening and you get caught up in the emotions of it, especially when it's a rival that's playing. And I think if they decide to say, well, we're not going to watch, we're going to turn it off, I think that shows that it's kind of in their heads anyway. Because if you normally watch every game, then why would you avoid this one? So when you could see that the carrot was there, you could say that it doesn't matter, but of course it matters. So I think, from that standpoint, they'd see it and they would have felt the disappointment. But the way they played the game, they didn't have a bad game.
No, I agree.
They didn't have a bad game at all, but they didn't take their chances. And ultimately, you get punished for that because if you're not clinical in the Premier League,
and my other question was about those chances. Is there a point in the game where your team is missing chances where you think, okay, this is not going to be out there? Or you have to keep believing, okay, one is going to go in again?
Yeah, you have to keep believing. But from like a defensive standpoint, you've got such little say about people taking chances. Like you're up there and it's great that you're creating them. But then you know as every minute passes that the pressure's higher because you know what it feels like? That game felt to me like an FA Cup game against a side that's like low down or something in a different league. Because they're still in with a chance, And until this game's put to bed, like Forest haven't scored a ton of goals this season.
No.
So if you score 2 against them, the likelihood of you winning is very high. But they're capable of scoring 1. That's why they're in the position that they're in, sort of closer towards mid-table now, because they can get like a 1-0 win and so on. So it can be stressful, but it's such a bad goal to concede. It's a shame they didn't take those chances. But if we're going to be positive, being able to create chances at the highest level is always a positive because most teams don't even have that ability to have that many big chances.
Yeah, for sure.
But unfortunately for them, it came at the cost of Arsenal winning their game. And now all the good stuff from midweek in that game against Arsenal at the Emirates is now basically out the window.
It was an incredible turnaround for Arsenal, who conceded 2 goals. I think the only 2 shots pretty much that Villa had up to the second goal. Then they had chances later on. But And I think mentally, in the space that Arsenal would have been in after the defeat at Everton and the draw against Brentford, regardless of referees or not, the defeat against City, where Arsenal didn't play badly, but then City were very clinical, unlike the Forest game, to come back from 2-1 down away from home and go 2-2, 3-2, and then the fourth goal, which that +2 in the goal difference at the end of the season might be important, might not be. Psychologically, that must be huge in the dressing room afterwards.
Absolutely. The way they would have celebrated that win might be more so than any other game so far this season. And it's not to say just because it was the biggest game, but the nature in which you did it. To come back from a losing position in football is a huge moment. To do it so late when the pressure's on, when your team's not in the best of form, is massive again. That's why you see the whole bench going crazy as the goals are going in, because it's a win, but it's more than a win. It's like confirmation that, we are real. We fight to the end and we'll find a way to do this. Like, that means going forward in any game, if they're behind, they've got the history to show that they can come back.
Yeah.
I think if they would have just ended up losing and didn't have any fight about them, then that's an issue. But instead, they've shown real strength, real togetherness, and they know that they're still very much in control of their own destiny after so many people wrote them off just a few days earlier.
Yeah, no, that's very true. And I think it was far from being perfect from Arsenal. And defensively, they've been conceding more goals than in the first half of the season. But the main positive of the comeback and that mentality, I think, will be very important. So we discuss more City and Arsenal, the title race on the Gab Juls podcast. Make sure you listen to it. And we will have a word on Manchester United as well. Who also
of course
won.
We have to. Of course
and are back there. And I know you don't like it, but they are in the title race, I think.
I prefer not to speak, my friend. I prefer not to speak.
So make sure you listen to the Gab Juls podcast as well.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.